Shabbat Shalom, everyone. If you have not grabbed a source sheet, we have a few source sheets in the back. If you don't have one, you can please share with someone else who's sitting next to you as well. You know, I have to do this a little bit differently than I was expecting to do it this morning because as what happens in life, I was expecting us to go through one of these different concepts that come up in our parsha, a concept that I've wrestled with for years and trying to figure out exactly what it means, and yet lo and behold, through this past week, there have been numerous experiences that have changed my whole perception on what we are reading this morning. So first, let me just start by saying thank you. Because the thanks that I'm giving to you this morning, I think I'll be able to clear it up a little bit more, but just trust me for now, I just want to say thank you. So as we start, I want to turn us to page 1140 in our Eitz Chaim. Page 1140, we're going to do a little bit of limud, a little bit of learning and studying this morning. We're going to look at a very important, very ancient concept within our tradition. And hopefully we'll get a little bit of a different perspective on what that tradition means and what that tradition symbolizes. So if you'll turn with me to page 1140 in your Eitz Chaim, we have the very beginning of our parsha, Parsha Ki Tavo. And it says that when you enter the land that the Lord your God is giving you as a heritage, and you possess it and settle in it, you shall take some of every first fruit of the soil, a mitzvah that we call bikurim, the first fruits, which you harvest from the land that the Lord your God is giving you. Put it in a basket and go to the place where the Lord your God will choose to establish his name. You shall go to the priest in charge at that time and say to him, I acknowledge this day before the Lord your God that I have entered the land that the Lord swore to our fathers to assign us. The priest shall take the basket from your hand and set it down in front of the altar of the Lord your God. You shall then recite as follows before the Lord your God, Aramia Vedavi. My father was a fugitive Aramaean. He went down to Egypt with meager numbers and sojourned there. But there he became a great and very populous nation. The Egyptians dealt harshly with us and oppressed us. They imposed heavy labor upon us. We cried to the Lord, the God of our fathers, and the Lord heard our plea and saw our plight, our misery, and our oppression. The Lord freed us from Egypt by a mighty hand, by an outstretched arm and awesome power, and by signs and portents. He brought us to this place and gave us this land, a land flowing with milk and honey. Wherefore I now bring the first fruits, these bikurim, of the soil which you, O Lord, have given me. You shall leave it before the Lord your God and bow low before the Lord your God. And that's where we'll stop for right now. This concept, this mitzvah of bikurim, might sound very familiar because it makes up our magid, the storytelling portion of our Passover Seder each and every year. This is the only thing that we really need to do to fulfill the mitzvah of reciting magid, is to look at this recitation that comes from the mitzvah of bikurim, of first fruits. Now our ancestors, the great sages, the rabbis, look at this passage and they also deduce from it something else that's really important with a source coming from the book of Shemot, the book of Exodus. These two sources together come together to represent a different idea called Hiddur Mitzvah. Mitzvah, of course, being commandment, and Hiddur coming from the word Hadar, which means beauty, to beautify, to make something beautiful. So the rabbis come together and they see this and they say, what do we need to do whenever we perform a mitzvah? We need to make sure that mitzvah is a beautiful one. Now, what exactly does that mean? So if we turn to our source sheet, our very first text, which is a midrash, which comes from the Mechilta, the Rabbi Yishmael, asks the same question: what exactly does it mean to beautify a mitzvah? And so we see, Aval kishnegla hakadosh baruch hu al hayam, but when the Holy One was revealed at the sea, there was no need for anyone to ask, who is the king? For when they saw him, they knew him. And they all opened up their mouths and said, this is my God, and I will extol him, ve'anvehu. Literally, I will host God. But Rabbi Yishmael says in this midrash, is it possible to host one's master? Rather read ve'anvehu as coming from the root na'eh, of beauty, I shall beautify myself before him with mitzvot. So all of these different mitzvot, all of these different commandments we have, Rabbi Ishmael says we should make them beautiful. So instead of just having a normal lulav, we should have a beautiful lulav. Instead of having nice tzitzit, we should have beautiful tzitzit. Instead of a normal shofar, we should have a beautiful shofar. And we should have beautiful prayer. Now, if we turn to the next page, we'll see that the Talmud echoes the same sentiments. In Masechet Shabbat 133b, the rabbis look at the same verse coming from the book of Shemot, and they say, what is the source of the requirement of "this is my God and I will glorify him"? As it was taught in a Braita with regard to the verse, "This is my God and I will glorify him, Anvehu, the Lord of my Father, and I will raise him up." The sages interpreted Anvehu homiletically as linguistically related to the word, once again, Na'eh, beauty. So the interpretation, therefore, is the verse should read, beautify yourself before him, before God, with mitzvot, with commandments. Even if one fulfills the mitzvah by performing it simply, it is nonetheless proper to perform the mitzvah as beautifully as possible. Make before him a beautiful sukkah, a beautiful lulav, a beautiful shofar, beautiful tzitzit, beautiful Torah scrolls, beautiful ink on which we will write on the Torah scroll, and a beautiful quill by an expert scribe, and wrap the scroll in beautiful silk fabric. So again, we have this concept of all of these mitzvot that we're doing. We shouldn't just do them simply. We shouldn't just have normal things to perform our mitzvot, to perform our commandments, but we should really hiddur mitzvah. We should beautify our mitzvot. All of our commandments should be done in a way that seem beautiful. But I want to share something a little bit different with you this morning because, again, as I started out by saying, this week has made me look at this in a very different way. For years, I've been wrestling with this idea of what it means to hiddur mitzvah because while I understand in the beauty of being able to take a Kiddush cup and to be able to hold on to an even more beautiful Kiddush cup in order to observe Shabbat or Kiddush, I also realize that there are some people who might not have the money, I might not have the means to be able to afford a beautiful Kiddush cup. And it's wrestling with these different ideas of trying to figure out who can afford what, and does our Judaica that we have in our house, adorning our house, need to be the source of all of our money, where a lot of our money goes? And it's something that I really wrestle with, because on one hand, I think it is very important to be able to beautify a mitzvah. It's nice and it's beautiful to be able to hold up a beautiful Kiddush cup. But at the same time, I still wrestle with the idea of, couldn't my money also be going to charity? Couldn't my money be going somewhere else where I could also be fulfilling mitzvot in different ways? And I want to share with you that this week, both of those different ideas kind of came together in a very different way. So let's finish reading that first paragraph on page 1142. So again, that paragraph says, "You shall leave it before the Lord your God," and we're talking about these first fruits, these choice, beautiful fruits that the Israelites are supposed to leave. When they get to the promised land, the land that God promised them, they're supposed to harvest their crops, and when they have these beautiful fruits, they're supposed to bring them to the Kohen and to God as an offering. And then it says, "And you shall enjoy together with the Levite and the stranger in your midst all the bounty that the Lord your God has bestowed upon you and your household." One more time. "And you shall enjoy together with the Levite and the stranger in your midst all the bounty that the Lord your God has bestowed upon you and your household." This week, I have had more than 3 people come up to me and thank me. Thank me, not me personally, but thank me for being a representative of this congregation. People have come up to me from our Thursday night of learning, where our communities got together and studied Torah for 2 hours with different rabbis all throughout this community, and they said from the get-go they were embraced and welcomed with open arms from everyone in this congregation, and they felt like they had belonged at Shaarey Zedek for years. They felt like they were part of this family. And another individual who sat in my office who was having not only a week, but a month of really low lows of sorrow and pain and hardships, and she said to me with tears in her eyes that even though I am a stranger in this community has opened up its arms to me and welcome me in a way that I could have never expected, and I feel at home. Someone else has told me the same week that exact same sentiment, that here they are coming from somewhere outside, and the fear that comes with going into a new place and not knowing anyone and not knowing faces, and the very first thing that this person experienced was someone welcoming them in, giving them a hug, and inviting them to Rosh Hashanah dinner. What does it mean to Hiddur Mitzvah? What does it mean to beautify a mitzvah? This week I learned from you that to beautify a mitzvah, it means to share your mitzvah. I think that is exactly what that paragraph is saying. At the bottom of page 1142, when it says, "And you will sit together with the Levite and the stranger in your midst, and all the bounty that the Lord your God has bestowed upon you in your household, you will be grateful and you will be speaking of gratitude." There's a concept of Hiddur HaMitzvah that comes with the idea of beautifying a mitzvah by making it aesthetically pleasing. There's another concept that is the mitzvah can be simple if you use that mitzvah for other things. You use the money that you would have spent on a beautiful Kiddush cup for tzedakah or something charitable. And there's another way to look at it, a way that you've taught me this week, which is to share your mitzvah and share it in a way that's meaningful. That a Rosh Hashanah dinner is a beautiful mitzvah. You are celebrating the simcha, you are celebrating a holiday that is so meaningful and so important. And here you are opening your doors to people who you don't know. That is beautifying a mitzvah. I cannot think of any way to beautify a mitzvah more so than that. To light Shabbat candles and invite someone else to share a Shabbat dinner with you. To be able to perform tzedakah, but to bring someone else along with your tzedakah so that they can share in the giving that you are giving as well. Everything that we do, we have the opportunity in this great tradition of ours, because it is communally focused, to do it with someone else. The beauty, the concept that comes from this idea of Hiddur HaMitzvah, beautifying a mitzvah, means that we share it. And we share it not just because we're commanded to do so, but because we know that there is something intrinsically holy and something intrinsically good that makes this world a better place when we do. So again, I want to say thank you, because I've struggled with this concept for a long time. I really do. I struggle with, if I go into a Judaica shop, if I should spend the money that it says because I need to buy a beautiful Kiddush cup or a beautiful Hanukkah. But you have challenged me this week to embrace a different idea of Hiddur HaMitzvah, and it's one that I'm taking very seriously as we go into Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur in this year ahead. That I'm going to try to share my mitzvot as much as I can, because it's what you have taught me, and it's a beautiful idea. So with that, I'm going to give you one last blessing, which comes on our third page of our source sheet, which I think captures the same idea beautifully, and I'm sorry that the English didn't print out here. So you'll just have to trust me, if you're not Hebrew readers, that this is what this says. But in Shir HaShirim Rabbah, this is Midrash on the book of Shir HaShirim, on the book of Song of Songs, which is, in its essence, a love poem, a long love poem. And yet the rabbis still find commentary to build on this love. And the rabbis say here, Hinach yafa, rayati hinach yafa, hinach yafa b'mitzvot, hinach yafa b'gimilut chasidim, hinach yafa b'mitzvot aseh, hinach yafa b'mitzvot lo taseh. You are beautiful, my love. You are beautiful. You are beautiful with mitzvot. You beautify yourself with acts of loving kindness. You beautify yourself with positive mitzvot. You beautify yourself with negative mitzvot. You beautify yourself with mitzvot of the house. You beautify yourself with mitzvot of offerings. You beautify yourself with mitzvot of the field, with every act of life, with covenant, with goodness, with tefillin, with prayer, with ritual, with open hearts. You beautify yourself in this world, and you will beautify yourself in the world to come. So with that, once again, thank you for teaching me what it means to Hiddur Mitzvah. I owe you a great deal of gratitude this week, and I am so proud of this congregation, and I am proud and honored to be considered and called a rabbi at this congregation. Shabbat Shalom.